I'm gonna need a gun. Hey everybody, what's happening? Neil back once again with a quick film review for you, and today I'm going to be taking a look at John Wick Chapter 4. Spoiler alert! Yes, spoilers, I will be spoiling the heck out of this movie. It is directed by Chad Stahelski, and it's 169 minutes of pure joyous gunplay. It's the best one yet, I think. It's the best of the John Wick movies, and it's 2.5 hours, and it goes by like nothing. It stars a well-dressed Keanu Reeves, a well-dressed Donnie Yen, Lawrence Fishburne, and Ian McShane, as well as Bill Skarsgård playing the main antagonist here. It's a bit of a creepy French guy, and a very snooty character, very well done. All the performances here are excellent. So I'm not going to spoil every last detail about what happens in this movie, but I will be spoiling quite a chunk of it, especially the ending, of course. Now, this story is, it is as it has been since the beginning. It's a revenge story, as now John Wick is taking his revenge against the High Table now, which is like the authority in the John Wick world. And he's always on the run. He's always got a target on his back. It seems, especially from what happened in the third one, where he was excommunicated. So he's no longer really a part of, this guild, you could say, really, of assassins. And the story is really pretty interesting. I mean, it's not that better than any of the other John Wick movies, but in terms of the execution of the story, it's pretty amazing. It starts off with him killing this elder who's above the High Table, and he kills this elder in Morocco, and that causes the Marquis Vincent de Gramont to punish Winston, the New York hotel, by destroying his hotel and also killing his concierge, Sharon, played by the late Lance Reddick. Vincent then enlists Kane, this blind assassin, played by Donnie Yen, who steals the movie, to kill his old friend John Wick. If he doesn't, then Vincent will have his daughter killed. So he's basically blackmailing Kane here, who's reluctantly going after John Wick, and he knows John is a master assassin like himself, and it's not going to be easy. Kane and the Marquis' men, they track down John at the Osaka Continental, and his friend Koji tells him how to escape. Of course, Kane catches up to John anyway, and they have this great little fight, but their fight is interrupted by this tracker with a German Shepherd calling himself Mr. Nobody. Koji is then killed by Kane, and reluctantly killed by Kane, I might add. Again, Kane is not like a vicious killer. He's just killing people in his way. He has to kill people sometimes. It's how it goes. And he warns people, don't mess with me, but sometimes they don't listen, and Koji didn't listen. So he dies. Koji's daughter, Akira, is injured, but he lets her get away, and he knows that she's going to vow revenge on him one day, certainly. And Akira, winds up meeting John on the subway, and she curses him out. Winston tells John that he must request a duel with Vincent. It's the only way to be free. And if he wins, then John will have his freedom and Winston will have a new hotel in New York City. First, though, John has to go to Berlin to get this new crest. He has to get this thing branded on his arm to certify his membership to the syndicate, which will legitimize his request for a duel. You see, there's rules here you got to follow. A lot of procedure in the John Wick world. You can't just go around killing people unless you get the green light. Or at least requesting to fight people anyway. So, Vincent has really no choice. He's forced to accept, and he actually winds up choosing Kane as his champion to fight for him, though. He chooses Pistols at Dawn. How old school is that? Oh my. So to prevent John from even making it to the duel, Vincent puts this $40 million bounty on John's head. And what follows is some of the greatest action sequences I think that's ever been filmed. There's a scene involving cars and people are being hit by cars, and they're flying all over the place, and they're shooting each other. And there's this shot on the stairs as well, which is very impressive. It's pretty epic. The top view scene, though, is pretty darn amazing when Mr. Nobody is chasing after John Wick and John's shooting everybody else in the way. It's just phenomenal filmmaking there. It seems to be like it's almost like this really long one shot wonder there that's fantastic. It does eventually cut, but then what it does cut, it gets down to John and Mr. Nobody, and his dog is in the line of fire, and John has Mr. Nobody dead to rights, and instead of killing Mr. Nobody, the bounty hunter that wants him dead, John shoots one of Marquis' right-hand men there and saves the dog, because as we all know, John has a lot of compassion and consideration for dogs. Of course, he's been through hell with losing a dog and everything like that. So Mr. Nobody then winds up changing his mind about killing John. He's kind of like, John's different than I thought. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to kill him now. So, what's up happening later on is in that stairs scene that I mentioned, where John goes all the way to the top of the stairs and he gets knocked all the way back down to the bottom. Kane then shows up to help him, and he winds up cutting down other men that are in their way as well. And he wants to make sure that he gets there by sunrise, otherwise he forfeits. So they both do make it there by sunrise. And they draw pistols at dawn, and Kane shoots John, badly wounds him, and then Vincent gets up, and very cocky, and he goes to finish John. He wants to deliver the coup de grace, but Winston says, "You arrogant idiots, John's gun was never fired in the last shot." So he still had a bullet in his old school gun, and he winds up shooting the Marquis in the head. And that's all well and good by the rules, because Vincent took Kane's place as the opponent right at the end, because he's allowed to do that, I guess. So it allowed him to be killed by John Wick. So good job, buddy. So the Harbinger, this high table operative played by Clancy Brown, he's basically like the referee here. He declares John Wick the winner, and he's now free, as is Kane as well. Kane and his daughter are free from the watch of the high table. However, John dies from his injuries, and that's pretty realistic. I gotta say, it's like almost like, yeah, he probably should die, considering how he's been shot, and oh my. But he actually does die, and they bury him next to his wife, and the Bowery King, played by Lawrence Fishburne from previous John Wicks, he comes to pay his respects. Now, in the post-credits scene, which is very short, Akira comes to avenge her father's death by going after Kane, who's out there free with his daughter, but we don't know if she killed him, because it cuts out, it ends right before we find out, so it really leaves it up to our imagination. So this was an incredible action movie, obviously one of the best gunplay movies of all time. The choreography of the action is just insane at times, and very, very, very memorable. Certainly the shots of the cars in Paris, and of course that top view shot was definitely the best part, I thought, of the whole film. I could watch that 100 times. It was fantastic. It's got a lot of gorgeous locations, certainly, especially Paris, but they go to different places, Berlin and Morocco and so on, and New York, and it's fantastic, beautiful stuff. It should be required viewing, I think, in film class. I think this one, should really be required viewing on how to do action, how to do shoot 'em up movies, basically, and just how to do gunplay properly, and just so many interesting ideas coming in here from a directing point of view. I think Stahelski did a fantastic job. The cinematography is great. I love the tone. The editing's fantastic. Of course, the any kind of the stunts and any kind of CGI that there may be here and there certainly is fantastic. The dog is great, the German Shepherd owned by Mr. Nobody, the whole time you're kind of worrying, well, Jesus, is this dog gonna get hurt? Don't hurt the dog, don't hurt the dog. I don't care about the humans, just don't hurt the dog. Yeah, and the dog remains unharmed, as is Mr. Nobody at the end. Mr. Nobody's watching at the end, he's basically, sitting there with popcorn and just going, oh, that was great, like... I don't know, but no, it was good in many ways, and this movie's very impressive. Definitely the best John Wick movie yet. However, I mean, it can be a little bit difficult to find fault with it, but the few things that I got to say are, well, one thing is, of course, how invincible John Wick seems to be, and some of these other characters too. They get shot several times and they just keep on going. There's this one character that's shot in the butt, and he's doing like these high kicks to John, and he's like this big guy. He's like this gangster in Berlin, and just kind of like, okay, all right, fine. So you're kind of like, okay, sure, why not, right? I guess, but yeah, I just a lot of people seem to be, a little bit beyond human. I mean, it's more it's more James Bond, Indiana Jones than Die Hard at times, in terms of the realism. But then John Wick does actually die at the end. We thought he was invincible, but no, he actually dies at the end. So it's a good thing. It's certainly not going to be for everyone. I mean, this movie has oodles and oodles of violence. I mean, why are you going to this movie if you're just going to see a Keanu movie or something? Like this is for straight up hardcore action fans that don't want the action to stop, because it pretty much almost never does stop. It's really this locomotive that keeps going, and it's fantastic for action fans. But how much is too much, in terms of all these gunshots and swordplay and fighting and everything like that? But it's maybe it's a bit too much. There were some people in the audience that were just kind of like, oh man, like just more gunshots, and I just kind of thought. I thought, like, have you not been to a John Wick movie before? I don't know, but yeah, well, is it the last one? Well, maybe, but if so, it definitely goes out on a high note. But just like Scream 6, characters seem to get hurt. They seem to be like, well, you'd be dead by now normally, but they take a licking and keep on ticking. So for me, that's kind of okay. It's kind of silly. It's kind of over the top, but the movie is so well made. So I gotta highly recommend it, of course. And yeah, I'm gonna give John Wick Chapter 4 a 9 out of 10. I'd give it a 10 out of 10, but like I said, it's not for every audience, and it's not gonna please everybody, so I think that's the case. But that's just my score for now. I may see it again and change it, who knows, right? But for now, it's a 9 out of 10 for me, and I thank you guys so much for tuning in to this review of John Wick Chapter 4, and until next time, peace.